Prepare yourself
for an entertaining and somewhat informative hour or half hour of MMA Talk Radio, brought to you by The Joe Show.
And Timbo Slice.
What's up, Timbo Slice? Everybody's still quarantined up. We're in our separate locations. I'm actually at work. Nationwide is on your side at North Richland Hills. And Timbo, you look like you're in a morgue or something. Where are you?
I'm in the morgue. Yeah, I'm not in a morgue. I need to get some more on my background here. This actually over here.
You got more than me. There you go.
This dartboard over here is actually how I pick my fights.
Oh, really?
I close my eyes and just throw a dart and put numbers with fighters, and so that's why I'm not very accurate on my predictions.
Oh, gotcha.
So just making it up all the time.
All right, UFC Fighting Championship. So there's a good fight tomorrow night, my man. I don't remember much about last week's fight. Do you?
I saw a few of them here and there. There were some decent fights. I mean, the main event last week was Derek Brunson. He ends up dropping some serious elbows right at the end of the round
right.
It was kind of confusing. Was Herb Dean waving it off, or was he waving off the round? But it turned out, I thought, to be kind of both in the same.
Well, what they were talking about is, and I don't know if they were just joking, the commentators were talking about, well, he only waved one hand, so that meant the end of the round. If he waves two hands, that means the end of the fight. But, 3 more seconds, that guy would have been lights out. He came out. Herb Dean did a good job of stopping the fight immediately. The guy took a few more heavy shots, and Herb Dean jumped in. And, let's hear it for Brunson, man. The guy's on a charge. I've always been a fan of Derek Brunson. Now that he's kind of found a good camp, he's training down in Florida, it seems like he's a little bit more polished than he used to be. He used to be just kind of wild and, chin first, throwing haymakers, just a wild man. And he was very composed this last fight. So it was good to see, see that going on. It was a good victory.
That is good to see. I mean, he's changing up. He changed up his camp and his style a little bit, and he's bringing it back all into focus for himself and how he taking his time in there. But he's still, he's been winning fights. He's won his last 3 or 4 fights. He still comes in as the underdog all the time. Good.
Yeah, he was a big underdog. He was a big underdog, and the kid he fought was one of Ronda Rousey's old training partners.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yes. And he was actually the guy in the video that, he was always in Ronda's videos. He was a younger guy. And when Ronda Rousey went to the fights, that was the guy she was always throwing around in the cage in the pre-fight workout, in the open workouts. But was that the guy? Derek Brunson was beating him up, so.
But I guess that whole card was really had a lot of drama to it. With I guess even that co-main event was Joanna Calderwood. I mean, I heard she fainted after the fight, but people fainted. Holland's opponent fainted before he even came out. Like there was something in there. They lost a few to COVID, so they were struggling with that card. It seemed like.
Yeah, that was strange. So we all we followed Kevin Terrell and Blazer, dude. Fighting I think out of the Fort Worth area. Super nice dude, entertaining. We run into him at fights all the time. Always fun interview. And man, his fight had been canceled. That was his fight. That was the fight that was canceled. So he's making up for it tomorrow night.
Yes.
But before the fight, during the walkout, right as his opponent started to walk out, he faints. So I don't know, what's going on over there. And then I didn't know about Joanne Calderwood fainting. And man, she got beat up pretty fast in that fight. That the young lady she fought strapped in a really tight arm bar really quickly.
Yeah, Jennifer.
Jennifer Maia.
It was interesting to see that arm bar thrown out. I mean, how she worked into that, but it was quick.
Yeah, Jennifer Maia she was beating up Joanne from the get go. She had faster hands. She was clocking Calderwood pretty good, and then I don't know if it was Calderwood that initiated the takedown, but it did not end up well. Jennifer Maia just latched onto that arm, and within 30 seconds of a minute having that arm, man, it was a tight arm bar, almost looked hyperextended, and that was it. And I didn't know about her fainting after the fight, so maybe it was something in the air over there.
I wonder how different it is. I mean, compared to Fight Island, they bring them all in and they quarantine them. And they go through all the different tests. I don't know how that process is being played out, whether in Vegas. I mean, they're obviously giving them the tests, but how much quarantine is going into it, like they did for Fight Island? I'm sure it's similar, but for them to get a couple guys that ended up positive, it seems like it's probably not as it's not as tight. Their bubble might be a little too big there.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe they need to. So I didn't know. Hearing when Trailblazer Holland's opponent fainted before the fight, did they ever figure out what that was? Was it a COVID related deal?
I never heard anything about that. It seems like it kind of just disappeared. Then it was, fighters usually they make weight. They usually get their show money. I read an article that they weren't getting all of their show money now. Kind of starting to look at it like, okay, you're not going to get this unless you at least step in the cage. It sounds like, which is a little different. I'm sure with that missing that fighter's perspective today of what his opinion would be on that you've gone through camp, you stepped on the scale, you made weight, you're ready to go. If you're doing all that, you should be getting your show money if your opponent drops out for whatever reason.
Yeah. So yeah, that sucks for Holland because I'm sure he put in a 6-week camp for that at least 6 weeks. His coach Derwin Lamb was they'd all were there, flown down, ready to fight, and then you don't get to fight. Where do you want me to leave it at?
Fortunate for him, he's going again this Saturday. Right. It's all good for him to.
Got my main man Brian here. What's up, Brian?
What's going on?
He don't know 300,000 people are watching him right now. Yeah, buddy. Brian Creighton. Guess who his cousin is? If you're a Dallas Cowboy fan.
I'm drawing a blank. I would guess it's going to have a similar last name.
Catch you on Monday night.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So yeah, Patrick Creighton's cousin, former Dallas Cowboy, retired Dallas Cowboy. Pretty cool, nice guy. So we just met today. Yeah. But back to last week's card. Who else put on a good show was Vicente Luque against Randy Brown. Vicente Luque looked really good that night. He looked sharp hands. Thought it was a good fight.
Yeah, he finished that one in the second round with knees and punches there. So
yeah, TKO. Yeah, that was it was a pretty good card. And the UFC has done well about putting good cards together, even though there wasn't, a title fight. I thought it was still a really good event. And it's something to watch, man. Finally, we have some good sports back on TV, some good fights, good matchups. So another good matchup this weekend. But yeah, back to that card, Derek Brunson fought Edmund Shabazian. So Edmund Shabazian had, I guess, started over there training where Ronda Rousey was training since he was like 10 years old. So he has this, yeah, the same boxing coach as Ronda Rousey, and I can't think of his name right off the bat. But I mean, the kid looked good, but I think it was too big of a jump for him to fight a guy like Derek Brunson, who is so well seasoned. And when I saw the odds of Derek Brunson being the 340 underdog for that fight, I was like, what? I don't know. I didn't see that because Derek Brunson has beat some good dudes in the UFC. Even people we know out of the DFW, he's beat up. So I think it was just they pushed him a little too fast.
But he was 10-0 coming into that fight.
Yeah, he beat Shabazian had beat Charles Byrd along the way. And Derek Brunson had fought the who's who, even Uriah Hall, a lot of dudes. He'd knocked out a lot of dudes. So Derek Brunson looked good to me, man. I mean, him that night, fighting that night. I mean, he was a championship fighter that night, man. He looked so sharp. So it was exciting to see him kind of finally put it all together and look. I hadn't seen him look that sharp in a fight. He's usually real wild and just throwing haymakers. And when he fought, Israel Asanya back a year ago, 2 years ago, Israel Asanya picked him apart. But Derek Brunson, when he fought the style bender, was all gung-ho, head forward, going for the KO, just swinging for the fences. And Israel Asanya put him away via TKO. But that's not the same Derek Brunson that we saw last Saturday night. This Derek Brunson Saturday night was composed. He was picking his shots, and he kind of took his time. He was finishing his long combos, and he did real good at putting as Edmund Shabazzian to the back of the line again. To put it nicely. But but Shabazzian's stock didn't go down for me. I think that kid is going to be something special to see, but he needs to kind of grow into his body and get a little bit more experience. Give it a year.
Rebound from this and come back.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, he didn't like I said. I didn't really even know who the guy was. I'd heard his name, and I'd know he'd beat a few fighters that I liked. But I was pulling for Derek Brunson just because he's kind of an OG in the UFC. He's had a ton of fights and took a little bit of a break, and now he's come back. And what weight class is that? I can't see it from here.
It was 185.
185, man. He looked great. 185. So shout out to Derek Brunson, man, getting the job done. It was a good fight. And shout out to Edmund Shabazzian, man. Keep your head up and keep training. Work on some of those holes and work your way up the ladder.
That is true. That is very true, Joe Show. So did you watch we had the was it season 4? First week of season 4 for Dana White's Contender Series. I only had 4 fights, but two of them with finishes. So it was good. I like watching those because you're watching these up and coming fighters. They give you their background story, good interviews with them before the fight. So to really sit down and see who they are, get to know them a bit. I mean, the one dude lives in Vegas. He's getting ready to go to law school, but he's pursuing his fighting career right now because I can become a lawyer a little bit down the road, but to see somebody that's educated, that composed, and his interview was really interesting to see because you don't normally think, okay, I'm going to see some lawyer out there stepping in the cage.
Yeah. He takes a few shots to the head. He may not be a lawyer for long. It's just such a dangerous career to be risking your brain. Yeah. Who else on that card a little earlier in the night, man, was Bobby Green. Bobby Green, man, is coming on strong. He's won a few fights and he's also an exciting fighter. He fought Lando Venata, and Bobby Green and Venata put on a pretty good fight. I don't know who got fight of the night bonus, but Bobby Green, another guy that's been around the block for a while, and he's finally putting it together. So shout out to Bobby Green as well.
I don't think I saw that one at all.
Yeah, it was a good.
I had limited viewing opportunity.
The term of the night, and I kept hearing everybody talk about, was slobber knocker. These guys. Some of these fights were just guys beating the hell out of each other, and it was fun to watch.
That's a good term for them to throw out, huh?
Yeah. And Charlie Van just told me that somebody was moving to Bellator. The guy that was Corey Anderson.
Really?
Yeah, he just I don't have the details on it, but it's just from MMA Ramble. Charlie Van sent me a message, said Corey Anderson moving to Bellator. And I also saw Curtis Millender, Curious Curtis Millender.
Yeah,
looked like he was moving to Bellator as well, and I believe Bellator goes on tonight. So I don't.
That's going on tonight. You got Benson Henderson against Michael Chandler.
Oh, dude, damn, that's going to be a good fight. I want to see that.
Matt Mitrione against Timothy Johnson.
Meathead, huh?
And I know Bellator's, I think they put on some good fights. Everyone, it's the top of the world on MMA is the UFC, but Bellator's, I think, just a step below. I think they're still, sometimes they have up and coming fighters that end up moving into the UFC. Then they get fighters that are been finished with the UFC or contracts done and moving back to Bellator. So you can still see some really good fighters in there.
Dude, those guys are excellent. Michael Venom Page, what's his name? Michael Venom Page, Venom. Dude, the guy is a killer. There's some killers over in Bellator. The only thing with Bellator is, man, is unless you have Fight Pass, you can't see any of their fights anymore. If they're on ESPN Plus, we'd be talking about them more for sure. But I just miss their fights, and it is a place where, older veteran UFC fighters go to fight. Rampage Jacksons and those types of guys, Fedor Emelianenko, Ryan Bader. I mean, you see some old school names in there, Ben Henderson. But any given day, those guys can fight in the UFC.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you talk about aged out fighters, I mean, main event tomorrow night, you got Alexei Olenek. I mean, I think he's 44, so he's kind of getting up there past his prime, but he's still out there throwing down. I mean, he has 73 fights.
Yeah,
that's a lot of fights.
Yeah, and I think Derek. Let's talk about that main event, because I've been following it a little bit. Derek Lewis looks amazing right now. He is lean, mean, fighting machine, and his last couple of fights, he's looked faster, healthier, better conditioning, working his wrestling, working his stand-up. So I think he's going to go out there and retire Olenek tomorrow night. That's what I'm predicting. And I think it's going to be a quick knockout, because Derek Lewis doesn't want to take this guy into deep water, get caught on the ground. Any submissions.
Lewis did say he's prepared to go the distance. He's prepared to go into deep waters with him, go all 5 rounds. So when he's saying that, that means to me that he, like you said, he's been working on that conditioning. He's not eating Popeyes all the time now. He's really working harder to make himself in the UFC. I mean, before, I don't think he took it that seriously and was still winning fights. Now he's taking a little more serious, really working his camps, working it where he's lacking in the ground and wrestling aspect. I mean, he's got the power in his hands to just end a fight with one punch. And I think that's what he's done in the past. But as he goes against a little bit more seasoned fighters, that's what he's having to learn other aspects to really dive into that and work on those holes in his game. So,
yeah, and Derek Lewis, going back to him, and he's lost a couple of fights. He lost to the champ Daniel Cormier back in the day. Didn't he fight Cormier? Cormier beat him up, wrestled him pretty good, I believe. And he's lost a couple of fights in there. But man, I think tomorrow night Derek Lewis knocks Olenek out in the first round. I see a first round KO for Derek Lewis tomorrow night, and not even a long enough fight to get his balls hot.
Probably not. Probably no. With just one round, he won't start overheating yet.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a short night. I think Derek Lewis is going to finish him really quickly. Could be Olenek's last fight, and Olenek's had a great career. Depends on how bad he gets knocked out. Olenek's not going to knock out Derek Lewis. He's not going to submit him.
You don't think he's going to be able to get him on the ground at all? And I mean, it depends on how Lewis has been working that. But Olenek has a lot of submissions. He's very good on the ground. So
Olenek,
if he can get him down there, and stay on top of him, he has a really good chance of getting some submission in there. But so that's Lewis has just got to stay away from. I would think any kicks, and he's got to watch those takedowns. If he can stay on his feet, it'll be a short night.
Yeah, and Olenek he's good with the choke from his back. What is that choke they called? Isn't he the one that has the choke off his back most of the time?
I mean, like throwing up a triangle or what?
No, it's not a triangle. An Ezekiel choke or something. What do they call that? I can't remember if that's Olenek or not, and I can't see any of my chats. Charlie Van and Ron Gallagher are probably like schooling us right now, but during the podcast, I can't see. So if you're if Correa's out there and all these guys are, giving shout outs, what up guys, but we can't see any of your comments until after the show. So
he did have a victory with the Ezekiel choke. That was against
he's had a couple of them. I think he's had two Ezekiel choke victories in the UFC. So that's one of the main things that Derek Lewis has got to look out at, and possibly an arm bar if he's wise. He's learned how to post up and stay out of that Ezekiel choke. Then you got to watch the arm bar.
But he's also had some just wins by neck cranks. I've seen 3 on his list here. So I mean, I think I'd rather be choked out than have a neck crank. It seems like it's going to be much.
Doesn't sound like it's good for you.
I mean, that neck crank means I'm going to go see the chiropractor for a few weeks or months.
If you're lucky, you don't come out an inch taller.
As long as I come out with my head still attached, that's the main thing.
Derek Lewis has had a successful run in the UFC too, man. The guy's making money off of sponsorships, and I see some videos of him at home, man. It looks like he's living really well. Looks like he's got a couple of Ferraris in the garage. He's won a lot of fight of the night bonuses. So big fan of Derek Lewis, man. But I think all he's got to do is land one shot. Olenek gets hit a lot, and he doesn't. I don't think he has a chin. At 44 years old, you don't have the same chin.
No, you don't have the same chin. The one thing that Lewis did this week that kind of put him over the edge, he made him look like what Ocho always says is we're not just animals going in the cage, but when Derek Lewis got his food delivered to him, the UFC fight food, and he got Olenek's food as well.
Oh, and he spit on it?
He spit on it. I'm like, come on, man. You just dropped yourself a few notches. You look like a dirtbag doing that shit, in my opinion. I mean, maybe everyone used to spit in his food at Popeye, so he's used to it. I have no idea.
I don't know. I hope Popeyes didn't hear that. No, it was all for show. I believe it was all for show. I don't think that was really his food. He's not gonna. I'm
sure he threw it away. He didn't give it. He didn't send it back. And if Olenek's food went through a path like that, he would think he could have tainted it with anything. I mean, he ends up at the end of the fight, he's testing positive for something. It's like, well, what was slipped into his food because his food ended up somewhere else.
Yeah. So I think Derek Lewis is doing it more for a show, but he is a gangster. He's from Houston, Texas. Wouldn't put it past him, man, to do some thug shit.
Well, yeah, so, he's been you're right. He's been around some thugs. He's put some time in the pen.
Yeah.
So
definitely not a dude you want to piss off. But when we met him, I met him, at UFC in Austin. Went out, took a photo with him, shook his hand. Big as hell in person. Like, you don't realize how big these guys are in person till you're next to him. That guy was a house. But nice guy. From first impression, I mean, he was real friendly, gentle handshake. Hey, nice to meet you. I said, Mr. Beast, sir, can I have a photo with you? He just kind of looked at me. And he had an aroma to him as well. So he had been celebrating early, like Cheech and Chong style. So
and you're throwing him out on.
Oh man, everybody knows. Most places it's legal, but going to the co-main event, we have Hamari Akhmedov.
Yep.
Akhmedov. All right. Hope I'm sorry, sir, if I butchered your name. Versus Chris Weidman, and Chris Weidman is known for the guy who knocked Anderson Silva off his throne back in the day. Not only once, when he took the belt from Anderson Silva by like a left hook or a right hook, whatever it was, and the ground and pound and put Anderson Silva to sleep. But the second time, when he checked Anderson Silva's kick, and Anderson Silva snapped his shin in half.
That was
Brutal.
That was brutal. That was hard to see. So,
And that's, after that happened, guys started breaking shins on, knee checks. You started seeing guys kicking for the calf after that. That's when the calf kick started getting really popular. Shortly after that fight, people started kicking lower than that because I think they got tired of, getting those kicks, checked because it hurts. When you crash a shin into someone's knee, bad things are going to happen.
yeah, I saw some video this morning where it looked like these younger, they looked like 14, 16-year-old kids. They were practicing their kicks on a cement pillow.
Yeah, that's just dumb.
What the heck are you trying to do?
It's dumb. It's, for one, it's going to stunt your growth. You're going to ruin your, for two, you're cracking up your legs. It's, I get it. I did dumb stuff like that when I was a kid too. My martial arts instructor, we kicked railroad tie barefooted. I grew up in some hardcore karate. We would punch cinder blocks and do knuckle push-ups on cinder blocks and jog barefooted on concrete. But kicking, going shin to shin with a brick wall, man, it's not a good idea.
It's not a good idea. You don't have any longevity. And I think, yeah, back in the day they used to do a lot more of that shit. Now they're looking at, okay, where is my longevity? How do I continue on with this career? If I'm going to make a career out of this, I can't keep doing this ridiculous stuff and beat my body down. You got to have
exactly
good recovery there, and take care of your weapons.
Yeah. So thinking about Chris Weidman and Akhmedov, man, Chris Weidman's been on a skid. He's lost 3 fights in a row or so, and now didn't he move up to 205?
This fight's going up at 185.
Oh, okay. So maybe I thought he'd went up to 205 in the previous fight. So now he's down at 185. So he's 14-5. So he's got 5 losses, and I think 3 of them. I think he's on a 3-loss skid. Either
two fight losing streak. His last win was against Gastelum. And then he lost to Souza and Dominic Reyes. So
yeah, well, that makes sense. Dominic Reyes is a bad dude. He went the distance, and some people think he beat John Jones. So that was at 205. He must have fought Dominic Reyes at 205. So looks like Weidman has dropped back down to 185, and that's where he had his most success. He's still a bigger guy at 185. He wasn't big enough for 205, I don't believe.
Yeah, so if he dropped back down, I think he has a much better shot at throwing on a good fight out there. So you're thinking, I'm looking at Weidman should be, if he's dropping back down, he's going to be faster down there. He's going to be able to pull that one out of there.
Both these guys have a pretty good record. Akhmedov actually has more fights. He's 24-1. So 4 losses, 1 decision, 20 fights, 4 losses, 1 draw is what it looks like.
Yep.
So the 20 is the wins. So he has 20 wins,
20
4
wins,
losses,
4 losses, one draw.
So, and then Weidman's 14 wins, 5 losses, 0 draws. But we'll see how he does, man. He may end up over at Bellator after this fight.
Possibly.
Possibly. And who else we got on there? Darren Stewart fighting Patolo. I don't know a lot about Darren Stewart. Looks like he's got 11-5 record, and then Patolo 13-5, both 29 years old. This looks pretty good. About the similar reach, 75-inch reach, and another one 74-inch reach. So looking pretty good, but I don't know a lot about these guys. So
yeah. Then you got the women fight with Yana Kuskanaska and Julia
Kuniskaya. Sorry, ladies and Julija, Story,
Stolienko. Stolienko.
Perfect.
There you
I
go.
agree. I agree with you there on that one. Let's see what
Thank you
they're.
very much.
Let's see.
The other
all
fight
right.
I've been following Beneil Dariush. I mean, he's fighting out of Huntington Beach now, but he was from my hometown back in Cali and out of Yorba Linda there. So it's where he used to call his. I mean, where he's where he was fighting out of. There's not much fighting out of there. There's a few other. There's somebody that was opening up a gym in there that was getting ready to open up. But so I've been following him. So like to see him get out there and get a W. I mean, he's going up against Scott Holtzman. So they're very similar records. So that should be a good one. Dariush has, he's taken out a few people. Who was that? He beat Vic.
Yeah, that's right.
So he's
a bad dude,
and he's on a 4-fight win streak. So he's
got some momentum behind him. And I don't know anything about Holtzman. I don't know if that I've ever seen any of his fights. I don't even know if I recognize. I got to put my readers on. Yeah, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know if I've ever seen him. Yeah, I'm sure I have. 155. You know, he's Dariush has got the reach advantage by 3 inches. Southpaw as well, so that's a good plus for him. So yeah, I think Dariush is. I'm picking Dariush on this one, but I don't know anything about Holtzman.
You got Tim Means going up too. Didn't he just? Thought he just fought recently.
Tim Means has got a lot of fights. 29, 12, and 1. He's 36 years old. 170-pound weight class fighting Staropoli. And I don't know who Staropoli is. A lot of international fighters coming now. A lot of guys I haven't heard of and haven't seen in action. Which
is interesting to see, because that's why Fight Island was put into place for these international fighters. But we got a lot of them here. Either they've been training and it's been in the States, but how are they getting past that any travel ban? So it's still good that they're able to put on those fights in Vegas. Because I mean, I know a while ago Dana was talking like, this is possibly ramping back up. Everything's going to end up back on the island. But
depends on what news station you're watching.
True that.
And then Tim Means, he's an old school name. He's been fighting a long time. Let's see how he does. What about Kevin Holland versus Joaquin Buckley? Joaquin Buckley looks like a stout young man. I haven't seen any of his fights, and I'm not sure what organization he came out of, but that guy looks like he can knock you out just by looking at you. Looks very strong.
He's a Bellator man. He came over.
Oh, is that? Oh, all right. See, we were just talking about that. So Holland is 17-5. Buckley is 10-2. Holland's 27. Buckley's 26. Holland 5 inches taller.
Holland's going to take that one. I don't see any issues for Holland on this. I mean, I think he's very dominant out there in all aspects of the game.
Is it a catch weight?
I don't think so.
Because I'm reading the weight. It says Kevin Holland 170, Buckley 185, and maybe Buckley used to fight at 185 and just dropping down to 170.
But they're fighting at 185, and Holland weighed in at 183, so he came in under the weight limit. So he's given up a few pounds, but I don't think that's going to be an issue for him.
Is Holland's normally a 170er?
I believe so.
He's tall and he's tall. He's a long dude. Fairly muscular, but yeah, I can see him doing 170. I'd have to see what his last fight was. But Buckley might be a monster if he's dropping from 200 pounds to 185. I mean, he's going to have some serious power.
That's very true. So if he cut weight and he hit his 185 or 180, I think he came out 186. So that means he's cut down. So he's putting that 10, 15 pounds back on today. Could be a little bit, that aspect could be a little bit of a challenge for Holland. I think he's going to be able to stick and move and stay away from.
Yeah, because if the other fighter comes in 20 pounds heavier than you, man, that's a problem, especially when you get in the clinch. You start taking shots from the heavier fighters, and it's harder to knock out the bigger guys. So we'll see. I'm pulling for Kevin. Fighting out the DFW.
I was pulling for the local guy.
Yeah, trains under Derwin Lamb. I guess it's Lamb MMA, which is he's a well-known guy around town. So I always pull for my DFW guys, especially Kevin Holland. We see him at a lot of events, so I'm glad he's getting the fight. It's been a long camp for him because his fighter last week passed out on the way to the walkout. So I guess Kevin flew back home, and then they call him, "Hey, we got you another fight Saturday." So you have to put down, you have to get back on your diet and get training again because he probably, if he was smart, I bet he stayed in shape. But still, that's a pretty long camp, and then you got to change game plans. So we'll see how it goes for him. I wish him luck, and he has been on a tear lately. His last fight, he looked fantastic. It was just a couple months ago.
Yep. The other guy on the card that I've seen fight before was Erwin Riviera.
Yep.
I saw him fight because he lost to Ocha back in the LFA back in, what was that, 2015. So he's bounced around from Legacy to Combat Americas.
And finally made it to the big show.
Finally made it. Well, he's had one other fight in the UFC, but it was a loss. So I was fun to see someone that you've seen fight before, seeing them on TV and going at it. So it should be another good night, watching fights, having a good time.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch them. We do have. I'll have to watch some of them on my TiVo. I'm gonna have to record some of them because we'll be on the baseball field that night. But when I get home,
I believe the whole thing's on Fight Pass. So you got to have your Fight Pass to, which is cool about that because then the next day you can sit down on your on ESPN Plus.
Yes, ESPN Plus.
ESPN Plus, and you can pick each fight, whichever one you want to watch. You don't have to sit there and fast forward through them all. But they have it set up pretty good on Plus there.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it from my cell phone. So. Because we'll be at the baseball field right down the street from your house, Bimbo.
Really?
445 on Lake Forest and 380.
Lake Forest and 380.
Yep, just north. So yeah, man, come on out. It'll be his last games with this team because he's pretty much aged out of this majors team. So he's going into high school. So it's gonna be epic.
Is this like the end of the season for them then, since school's starting?
Yeah, it's the end of the season. This is their last game of the season this Saturday. And, it depends on how much they win. They'll play Sunday as well, but we don't know what time. So, yeah, and, high school football is back in action. So he's been going to football for, 2 or 3 weeks now. He's been doing strength and conditioning. Now they're back. Now they're doing the skills training. So it's good to see the world opening up a little bit.
That is
good. We don't need another shutdown, man. People get it. You got to wear your masks. They're doing all the social distancing. Even the, Rockstar Martial Arts where I teach, at El Dorado and Coit, I'm social distancing my students. We're wearing our masks. We're taking temperatures. I think as long as everybody, abides by the rules, even if I agree with them or I do not agree with them.
It's one of those sayings. Most people don't agree with it. There's a lot of people that don't agree with it. But if it's going to help, all right. You're going to get out in public, wear your mask.
I got my mask.
Oh, there you go. Correct.
Yeah, Mr. IOTBA. That night he came over, he had on a golden one. He had on a black one that had golden say IOTBA it was pretty dope, and he brought my family these Mr. IOTBA masks, and
Very
yeah,
cool.
that's my dude there. So maybe I'll give him a shot, get him to come out, watch the fights, come to baseball games. But excited about UFC tomorrow night. I'm excited. UFC's done a great job putting on these fights. LFA is back in action. I think they crowned a new champion. Friday night? Fleck, when the kid's named Fleck.
Flick.
Flick, yeah.
Flick. That was that last weekend? Whenever, but yeah, it's good to see them getting back into it. They did all 4 shows, I think, up in South Dakota, I think.
Yeah, and LFA is always good to us. So I love going to LFA. Great shows. I miss those guys. I miss, getting the post-fight interviews and, just seeing the crew out there. So, I'm ready for them to come back to the Bomb Factory and all that. And definitely ready for some XKO action. I know those guys have got some things that they're planning that they have in the works. So I'm ready to get back out there and start doing them Joe Show interviews live.
All right, man. It was good to see you. And next week we got a big fight next weekend too. So stay tuned. Tune in next week so you can hear all about predictions for big matchup.
All right. We'll see you soon, Bimbo.
All right, man. Take care.
Fight Fit Lifestyle Radio is out. Whoa. There it is. Can't see.